Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and you guys gave me tons of positive feedback that you like to analyze and how we analyze data on this channel. So this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a key thing that I look out for upcoming characters in the game and what I always do first. Like before I dive into all like the team composition, build guides and stuff for you guys, which we will do on this channel, what I always like to do is look at base stats. It tells us a lot. And of course, you know, with the hit hunting that is going around, like some wolf hunt, witch hunt that's going around, I have to say this is a character called a fictional character. These, of course, are pretty, in my opinion, accurate and representative for a fictional character. I have no idea why burst cost is blank for this character, but I think if whatever this character is, it might be similar. We have the other characters in the game too, for example, like Aventurine. And of course, another hypothetical question that character that might be coming up, for example, like Gallbladder into the game too. So we're going to talking about all of this, but first things first, let's explain what we see on the screen, and let's use like a very nice character like Doctor Ratio that everyone has. So what do you see here on this chart? You see a rarity on the top left, you have burst cost on the top right here, and over here you have 5 boxes. You have something weird called stat efficiency. I'll talk about that in a bit, but speed here. And for any of you who can't really make out the numbers, maybe it's too small, you're like listening in the background, really don't worry about it. You can just follow my narration and I'll be totally fine for this entire video. So, the graphs might be like a bit trickier if you want to like see them move and stuff like that. So we plotted basically the speed graph, the attack graph, HP, defense of all characters and plotted them versus each other. Here, this line over here, 102 speed, is basically the average speed of all characters in the game. 103 is Doctor Ratio's speed. This 115 figure is like the max amount of speed in the game. 90 is like the lowest character speed. And this is applied to all the other 4 categories here that you see: HP, attack, defense. So you can see here Doctor Ratio has extremely high attack versus the average. He in fact has the highest attack in the game. So stat efficiency here is basically what I did, and this chart was like totally created by me, but the data, the raw data was painfully grinded by Moonsky. So shout out to you for helping me collect the data so that I can analyze it as well. And put it in this very nice analytics software that I use. So stat efficiency here. What stat efficiency is 4.0 is the average character in the game. Taking, let's just say like how much these, how much of the stats are above average. So a character like Doctor Ratio, because of his very high attack, is being pulled off above average to like 4.23. If any of you who are interested in like the calculations and how I do it, leave a comment below. I'll be happy to answer them. But for those of you who don't care about calculations, you just want to see the numbers. Character, for example, like Fucc, if I go over here and show you, very high amounts of HP, very high amounts of defense, low attack that offsets it off slightly. That's why her stat efficiency is generally quite high, because of just how much her HP deviates from mean. So it's not just a simple addition of all 4. We calculate how much better are they versus the mean in each category, and then like put them all together to get an overall setting as well. So a very average character will be something like Argenti, or not slightly below average, because you can see here his attack is high but it's offset by low defense, and they all add up roughly about average speed, or more or less average HP. That's why he's like almost close to average but slightly under. You guys can kind of get what I mean already. So what insights then? Like all these charts are nice, right? But what insights do we actually get? And then we move to this chart here that I want to share with you about, which is how I see future characters that are coming into the game. The first thing I always look at is speed. Why speed? I know like some of you like, okay, speed is like lame, right? Is the easiest to see. But why? What actually speed tells us is, if you realize here, let me just switch this. Faster characters in the game, and this is for any colorblind folks out there. I use the color scheme blue and red because it's a lot easier for colorblind people to manage. But not to worry if you can't see the difference between blue and red. I will help you guys out by narrating also. Basically, I'm sorting by speed, the highest to lowest over here. And stat efficiency, if you guys can see the red color, it just means it's much poorer in terms of stats. Anything under 4 is basically like not as good. Anything above 4 is very good for all of you who want notice. So you can see very quickly, faster characters generally are shittier in terms of the stat efficiency. The only exception to this rule is the new character that might be coming out, Aventurine, which has very high amounts of stat efficiency. We'll talk about that in a bit as well. But here you can see that's the first thing I noticed. I'm just going to flip it around to show you the opposite is true. Slow characters have very high amounts of stat efficiency. You can see that any character that moves below average, like 102 is the average speed. So all these are like freaking slow characters, but their stat efficiency is very high. I don't know why this is the case, but generally it seems to be the trend. I'm not exactly sure why it's the case. One of the reasons that I found as I was doing the analysis here, and It's basically I just plotted the standard deviation divided by the mean of the different samples that we have over here. And what I see is basically, for any of you who are like switching off here because of too much stats, what I notice is basically the spread of the lowest, the highest to the average of speed matters the least. The deviation is the most for like defense. The deviation is like high for like HP. Attack is like so at like 13% kind of like deviation. But any of you who don't care about that, let's get back into the analysis. So that's the first thing that I noticed. Let's, since we are on the topic of Aventador, let's go and check out his stat spread, and I will share with you some of the things that I noticed too. So Aventador here, pulling him up, you can see that this character has very low amounts of attack. Straight away you see all his attacks just disappears. Very high defense, one of the highest in the game, and very good amounts of HP. Speed is also above average, and that is why his stat efficiency is super high. This stat efficiency, is it the best measure of a good character? The answer is no, because it doesn't actually reflect that attack here is not a requirement. This is just a helpful gauge to like kind of see the stat spread, but we need to factor in that attack might not be even useful for this character at all. Of course, I can't confirm anything as of time of recording, but I can show you another character like Fucc over here, who is another example of a case. Her attack, Fucc's attack is like extremely low, her speed is like on average, and her defense HP is like massively high. But her stat spread is 4.4, but in fact I would say like this is way higher because she doesn't care about attack at all. She doesn't even scale with attack for her basic attacks as well. So something to consider, and that's the limitation of this, but generally I find that it's quite useful as well. So going back to Aventador, he has very good amounts of stat spread, he or she. Burst cost 110, and I want to point your attention to this chart here. Look at the stat efficiency. I plotted basically like the burst cost on the y-axis here. This line with this 121 number is the average amount of burst cost. On average, most characters in Honkai Star Rail have 120 burst cost. So 110 is pretty low. The minimum is like 90 and highest is 180 from Argentine, for any of you who just want like additional information. So that's like something I look at. These are like key insights that I get. He's a character that has relatively lower burst cost than necessary, which means that energy restoration scales better with characters with lower burst cost, because the amount of energy they get with each action is like 20 for basic attacks, 30 for using skills, and that scales very nicely with energy restoration gear because you are able to hit this threshold a lot more. So that's like the first instincts that come to mind. If you have very good amounts of defense here and you scale with defense, I might be more inclined to giving you more defense percentage gear because it scales a lot better. To put it into context, another character that I want to talk about will be like Doctor Ratio that we all know. Very high amounts of attack, base attack, which scales very nicely with percentage base attack, which is why not many people really care about building Doctor Ratio for energy restoration rate. You want to go for the attack percentage because you gain a massive amounts of gains with this attack stat over here, because every single energy restoration percent that you get, let's say you get like 4 more if you put a link rope that is energy restoration rate, 4 divided by 140, your efficiency of that is going to be much poorer rather than like just slapping it on an attack percentage gear and getting these massive gains on this character. So with that said, that's what I wanted to mention about Aventador. Next character that I want to talk about is another sustained character, which is very interesting when I saw the stat spread. This is Gallbladder. 6 stars, of course, here just shows you how fictional this is. It's definitely nothing arrestable or anything. But all of these other information, let's analyze it as well. 110 burst cost, pretty low. Abundance character, and the first thing you notice is a very weak stat efficiency for Abundance character. Below average HP in character in the game, below average defense, and unusually high attack for Abundance character. If you look at other sustained characters in the game, let me just switch real quick. For example, to Natasha, you can see that even for a 4-star, she has above average HP, above average defense. Unfortunately, not as good stat efficiency, but she is at least chunky. And Lynx, where is my Lynx? So Lynx also similarly, she might have a little bit lower than average HP, but her defense is much higher. Abundance characters tend to be a bit more chunky. Whereas on the other hand, for this character, Gallbladder, strangely high attack, which is very reminiscent of another character in the game, like Luota, which is another character I want to pull out here. You can see Luota here, although he's like low defense, he has very high HP and unusually high attack percentage. Of course, we now know that Luota, of course, scales with attack percentage. That is why he has this high. So we can see in turn that Gallbladder might be scaling with attack percentage in a lot of sense, but even if he does, Luota is not that squishy. Sometimes he is. He has like on average 4k-ish HP for my Luota and most Luotas in the game, even with like a 30% higher HP compared to like a character like Gallbladder here, significantly less HP, which means as a 4-star, this character is going to be damn squishy, and that's something that we need to take note of. Not going to, for any of us who are a bit more used to like chunkier abundance and preservation characters, this is probably going to be the squishiest character in the game. One character that's also very squishy that I want to point out, just to put into perspective like how squishy these stats are, or how much difference does a 30% drop is. Let's just say we bring this down. So Luota was like 120 something, right? So we bring this down another 200 plus value, that will reach like the minimum value, and that minimum value is a character like Ting. So freaking squishy because she has no HP at all. She has almost no defense at all, like compared to the average, and that is why Ting feels like way squishier than other characters in this game, and the stats here don't lie. Like immediately this translates to what we feel in the game as well. So that's like things that I am looking for against like the average peer group to just get a vibe of how characters perform. It's a lot of work, but it's something that I really enjoy doing when I'm making especially team comp videos and whatnot. So that is here. You can see this squishiness, and let's like juxtapose this against like other Harmony characters that are coming out also. We can, for example, let's take a look at Bronya. Bronya, Ting, a lot of people compare these two characters of using them. You use them one on each half maybe, but if any of you who have both, you will feel that Bronya is way chunkier, way tankier than Ting, and you can see that the stats don't lie. Her HP is above average for a lot of characters, even higher than, like almost equivalent to Luota, even higher than Gallagher. Her defense is also like way higher than even Gallbladder, for example, and just like massively higher. Characters that are coming out in future, there are also future units, like for example Sparkles. As of time of recording, it's not out yet, so it's Sparkles, a fictional character that I'm totally making up, but you can see here very good amounts of defensive stats, so it's at least a bit chunky to withstand some damage, unlike your squishy Ting. One other insight that I want to point out about Harmony characters, if I go over here real quick, let me just bring the chart here. 4.0 stat efficiency is like the average of all characters. And what do you notice here? The 3s are actually all 4 stars. The 4s are all 5 stars. And this is a big thing that I want to talk about that I notice when I'm analyzing the data. Harmony is the category that has the biggest deviation in terms of stat efficiency for 4-star characters and 5-star characters. I'm not even talking about their kit. I'm just talking about base stats, and the numbers don't lie. Ronmei, Bronya, as well as Sparkles generally have a very high amounts of stat efficiency, making them a lot more sustainable as Harmony buffing units on the field, which means that you might not need characters that draw aggro because everyone can take damage equivalently. Whereas if you have like very squishy characters, for example like Ting, Hanya on the field with like very low defensive stat here, they might get one-shotted if you don't have someone else drawing the aggro to them. So that is like another thing that I'm looking at. Chunky character in general, you can like put them in DOT teams because you don't mind taking damage across the board in like DOT teams. You don't need to run a dedicated shielder, a massive thick shielder, because you don't need that effective max HP increase. So all these things are what stats tells us and how it trickles down into team compositions and build guides that we are doing as well on the channel, which we'll talk about in a bit. And if any of you who are finding value in this video so far, maybe it's something that you appreciate. I put in a lot of work like doing all these charts. If you do appreciate, give me a like, subscribe for more of such future content. A lot of you seem to like data analysis, so that's why I'm doing it a lot more now, even though it takes a ton of time to consolidate and stuff like that. So okay, we are done with most of the characters, and the last one that people are most likely going to be excited with is a character here, a Lightning Nihility hypothetically character. Unfortunately, I have no idea why burst cost is blank. Maybe the data didn't feed through properly. I'm not too sure. But anyways, looking at the stat line, in my first glance, this is a very average character for a DPS character. Stat efficiency is 4.1, okay. Average amounts of speed. Defense is slightly below average or average. HP is average. Pretty much almost everything is like the average character in the game. Average is not bad by any means, because if you are a DPS character and you have average amounts of HP and defense, means you're relatively sustainable. Unlike, for example, a character like Zealer, who tends to be a bit squishier than other characters. If I switch the chart, you can see that Zealer immediately is like super squishy. HP and defense is like totally disappearing. Attack is like more or less the same as a character that we showed previously, and speed is a little bit higher, but stat efficiency is so bad. But when you compare it with the other meta DPS in the game in terms of pure stats, which everyone wants to compare to, and that's why I want to do it here as well, Jingliu has very nice stat distribution apart from speed. You can see her HP here is very, very high. Her defense is also above average. Attack is also above average. Speed is the only thing less than average, but people don't really care too much about speed for a DPS character because you can always push them up with Bronya, you can push them up with Sparkle, and stuff like that. But one thing I want to point out is she does have a very, very high burst cost, which takes away a lot of resources to plop into either funneling some energy into her, getting her to move faster so she gets more energy from her teammates. But one thing that I want to point out is a character, if this blank is true, doesn't have energy, this is very, very efficient. Speed here, unfortunately, I would much rather it be much lower because in that case, you can just turn order, manipulate the character. So a slow speed will tell me that you can just push the character up with Sparkle or Bronya and that will solve, it will be like super, super efficient. But average speed tells me that it makes a lot of sense to then have characters like Asta funneling flat speed into the character because a speed percentage like the 2-piece set bonus or the 4-piece Master of Wild Beat doesn't matter too much because she has very low base speed to begin with or like very average base speed. So a character that funnels flat speed, like for example Asta, or maybe characters that give speed, for example like Hanya and stuff like that, although Hanya is like also percentage based. But these kind of characters might be beneficial because you find stats from your other team members, especially if they are skill point positive and blah blah blah. A character that has no burst cost probably means that you might not favor like characters, for example like Ting Yun, who funnels energy. You will much rather maybe a other character, for example like not Ting Yun, not what's her name again? Huo. You'll much rather characters that give you turn action advance, like maybe a character like Bronya, or maybe a character, for example, like who else? I'm thinking of Hanya basically. I'm just trying to find her on the chart. So Hanya is also like another character that doesn't really give too much energy or doesn't give energy at all, but gives a lot of speed and turn order manipulation. So that is like things that I'm thinking about. At this point, what is more useful now is let's take a look at other DPS characters. Destruction here, Erudition, let's count Nihility in as well, and the Hunt. So out of all these categories, let us see the stat spread distribution of all these characters. The most efficient characters here in the game in terms of stat efficiency is Jingliu, number 1, Clara, Doctor Ratio, these are all very solid ones. A character, as you can see here, is pretty much average in terms of stat distribution, middle of the pack. Similar to Imbibitor Lunae in terms of overall stat distribution, so you can compare them. The feels might feel very, very similar together. In terms of attack percentage, because this is the offensive stat that everyone probably cares about for DPS characters, she is quite good. Same as Imbibitor Lunae in terms of attack percentage, base attack, very, very high on the list. Of course, not as high as like characters like Doctor Ratio, Himiko, Argenti, Clara, but very, very high up. Higher than Jingliu for what it's worth. Of course, you sacrifice the HP for that. Like Jingliu has super high HP for some reason. And again, a huge shout out to Moon Sky as well for helping collate this data. It is a ton of work. I know it was really, really stressful. So a huge shout out to you as well for helping us get the raw data so we can actually do our analysis on this sheet. Yeah, that is basically what I want to share with you guys for the raw data. And next up, of course, once we have more official information coming through, I'm going to be giving you guys build guides. Sparkles one is probably coming up real quick. If you guys appreciate content again, I'll do more data analysis like this. It's a lot of work, but if you guys want more of it, I'll try to do it as much as I can. Like and subscribe for more of such future content. And I highly recommend you, if you guys enjoyed this content, check out these 2 data-filled videos where we actually talk about how the past data affects future trends and what characters might benefit from that as well. And thank you guys so much for watching again, and see you in the next video.